I don't need such an expensive child, Simon said cruelly to his son, who was trying his best to stay strong despite his illness. Rachel, standing next to Simon, burst out laughing. Seeing their terrible behavior, I decided to cut ties with them for good. If you too feel that way, I, as his grandmother, will adopt him, I declared. Feel free to do so, Rachel said carelessly. It's not like he has much time left anyway. Just don't come back to us asking for money when it's time for his funeral, okay? She laughed loudly after saying this. Hearing these heartless words made me furious. From now on, we're strangers. Never contact me again, got it? Goodbye, I said firmly. I had been told something important about my grandson Maxime's condition by the doctor, but I chose to cut ties without telling my son and his wife. When they find out, I'm sure they will deeply regret their actions. As I gently hugged my grandson Maxime, I felt certain they would regret what they had done. My name is Camille. I'm 63 years old and a housewife. My husband passed away 7 years ago, and now I live alone. It was lonely at first, but I've gotten used to it. With my husband's inheritance, my retirement fund, and my pension, I can live a comfortable and peaceful life. I have a son named Simon. He's 33 and still hasn't settled down. Even though he's at the ideal age for marriage, he doesn't have a steady job and lives a carefree life. After graduating from college, he got a job but quit after 3 months because he didn't get along with his boss. He has had jobs on and off, but none of them lasted. My husband and I sometimes had to pay off Simon's debts. When my husband was alive, he often lectured Simon about his lifestyle. After my husband passed away, Simon rarely visited. In my husband's will, Simon only received a small inheritance, which might be why he was upset. I haven't kept in touch with him since. I supported Simon mentally and financially until he graduated from college. But I feel responsible for the fact that he has grown up to be so careless. I thought I had done enough for Simon until he became an adult and started his own life. I believed I didn't need to help him much after that. However, one day, out of nowhere, Simon came back home without any warning. It had been 2 years since we last saw each other, and he looked different, tired, and worn out. His style had changed too. He was wearing an aloha shirt, which stood out in our small town surrounded by farmlands. "Hey, I got married," he said. I was caught off guard by his news, and I was left in a state of shock and confusion. Seeing my surprised face, Simon clicked his tongue and called out to someone in his car. "Hey, it's okay now. Come over here." "I'm coming," a woman replied in a high-pitched voice. She stepped out of the car, dressed in a way that was hard to ignore and looked out of place. To my surprise, a small child toddled along behind her. A child? What is going on? I thought. Look, the kid is too young for us to work properly, and we're always short of money. That's why we've come back home, Simon explained casually, as if it was no big deal. I couldn't believe how nonchalant Simon was about this surprising news. The little child, who seemed to be around 3 years old, had long hair, making it hard to tell if it was a boy or a girl. But on closer look, the child resembled Simon when he was young. "From today on, we'll be staying here," Simon announced. "Hello, I'm Rachel. Nice to meet you," the woman said breezily, passing by me and entering the house as if she had always lived there. The little child tried hard to follow her, but she paid no attention and quickly went inside. Seeing this, I couldn't bring myself to turn them away, so I let them stay. As soon as they placed their luggage down, it seemed like they were about to go out. I quickly stopped them and asked for an explanation. After my husband passed away, Simon quickly met Rachel and they started dating. Soon after, they found out she was pregnant. By the time they discovered the pregnancy, it was too late for an abortion, so they decided to have the baby. But things turned out to be more expensive than they expected, and they ran out of money, which led them back here. However, it seemed they still had money for their own pleasures, just not for their child. "What? How can you be so irresponsible? I exclaimed. Cola irresponsible? If you want the kid, he's a hassle. He can't even talk yet and, to be honest, just gets in the way, Simon replied. Hearing such heartless words from my own son was shocking, but what shocked me even more was seeing Rachel nod in agreement. Well, that's how it is. Looking after and loving your grandchild is a grandma's job, right? Please help us out. We're going to grab a drink near the station. Maxime, be good and stay with Grandma, Simon said. Despite my attempts to stop them, they quickly left, ignoring everything I had to say. The station is about a 15-minute drive from our house, definitely not walking distance. Considering it's a rural area, I wasn't even sure if taxis were available, and even if they were, would Simon and Rachel use one to come back? Hey Maxime, I called out tentatively to my grandson. He responded with a bright, adorable smile, a smile that reminded me so much of young Simon. Seeing his smile made me smile back, though it felt like my heart was being squeezed. Such a precious smile, I knew I had to protect him from now on. Seeing Maxine's innocent smile, I made a vow in my heart to do so. During our time living together, Maxime picked up household rules quickly. He was a very bright child. By the time he turned 3, he could speak very well, even better than most children his age. I couldn't help but adore him. As for my eldest son and his wife, they consistently ignored Maxime, treating him like a nuisance. They had no intention of working and contributed nothing to the household expenses. They would go out drinking every day and sometimes wouldn't return for several days. This bizarre situation had become normal for Maxime, and it seemed like he cautiously observed their moves to avoid getting close to them. I couldn't stand it any longer and spoke to Rachel. Rachel, could you spend a little more time with Maxime? After all, you are his mother. What? Why are you saying this? I'm busy, you know. You're the one taking care of him, right? She said without even looking at me, busy with her manicure. Claiming to be busy when she spent her days doing whatever she pleased was quite the statement. Suppressing the urge to yell at her, I thought of Maxime and pleaded once more. Maxime just turned 3. Children that age cling to their mothers when they feel lonely. Oh please, I never wanted to be a mother in the first place. Maybe it's better if he calls you Mom, isn't it? Are you serious? I asked, stunned. Oh, come on. Of course, she said dismissively. I'm not. You look so scary right now, Rachel said. She must have seen the anger on my face. In the end, Rachel and I couldn't have a proper conversation about Maxime, and she just left with Simon to go drinking as usual. Maxime didn't seem to mind that his parents left. He continued flipping through his picture book. When he found his favorite fish, he excitedly pointed it out to me and tried to tell me about it with his limited words. Seeing him happy was a relief, but I couldn't stop worrying about how Simon and Rachel planned to take care of him in the future. My worries only grew when I thought about Maxime's future. With my husband's inheritance, I could cover his school fees if needed. I had no choice but to be ready for anything. As I prayed at my husband's altar, I whispered to myself. Glancing at his photo, I felt as if he was encouraging me, and I nodded in response. For 2 years, after deciding to take care of Maxime, I endured living with Simon and Rachel. I watched their reckless behavior. They went out every day, often taking money from my wallet without asking. During this time, I took care of Maxime, and he barely spoke to his parents. Maxime grew up quickly, and just before he was to start elementary school, a tragedy struck. Hello, are you Maxime's grandmother? Maxime has been taken to the hospital. Can you come immediately? On my way back from picking up adoption paperwork from the city office, I got a call that Maxime was in the hospital. It took 2 years of living together, multiple trips to the city office, and finally, the chance to adopt Maxime was within reach. I thought I could finally separate him from Simon and Rachel, but something terrible had happened. Holding back my emotions, I rushed to the hospital where Maxime had been taken. When I arrived and asked for details, the doctor said Maxime would need to be admitted. Confused, I asked, "Doctor, what's wrong with Maxime? What's the problem?" "I'll explain everything once his parents arrive," the doctor replied, waiting for Simon and Rachel. The nurse approached with a worried look, which made me uneasy. She nodded at me and whispered something to the doctor. "What? The parents don't want to know about their own child's condition." The doctor's loud voice echoed through the hospital, shocked by Simon and Rachel's indifference. I sighed, realizing it was just as I expected. Swallowing my pride, I knew I had to step up for Maxime. I explained our family situation to the doctor. At first, she seemed doubtful, but after seeing the detailed records I kept and realizing that Maxime's biological parents weren't coming, she believed me and explained Maxime's condition. "Ma'am, about Maxime's condition, please stay calm. The test results show cancer in his kidneys." "What? Cancer? This can't be," I said in shock, falling from the chair I was sitting on. The pain from the fall was nothing compared to the shock of hearing that my 5-year-old grandson had cancer. The nurse helped me get up, and the doctor continued speaking. "Fortunately, there's no sign that the cancer has spread. With immediate surgery, we can save his life." "Really? If he undergoes the surgery, he will be saved?" I asked. "Yes, however, we need the parents' consent for the operation. The cancer could progress quickly, so ideally we'd like to operate as soon as possible," after explaining this to the parents. Hearing this, I felt lost. I couldn't imagine Simon and Rachel showing any concern for Maxime. As I thought about what to do, I decided to visit Maxime's room first. There, I saw something I couldn't have imagined. "Hey, I heard you have cancer. The doctor was talking to your grandma in another room. Your life's in danger, and if you keep trying to live, it'll cost us more money. So do us a favor," Simon said, his voice full of disdain. Hearing these heartless words made my rage build inside me. But Maxime, looking at his parents, had a somewhat cold and mature look in his eyes that seemed far beyond his 5 years. His parents seemed taken aback, but soon started laughing again. "Really, you're such an expensive kid," Simon said mockingly. "What are you saying? You two are the ones wasting money." I burst into the room, unable to hold back any longer. Simon looked surprised, but quickly turned to Maxime and continued mocking him. "We don't need such an expensive child like you," he said cruelly to his own son, who was bravely facing his illness. Besides Simon, Rachel was laughing hysterically. Seeing their outrageous behavior, I decided to cut ties with them forever. "If that's how you feel, I, as his grandmother, will adopt him." "Go ahead," Rachel said dismissively. "He won't live long anyway. Just don't ask us for money for the funeral." She laughed loudly. Hearing this, an indescribable rage surged within me. "From now on, we are strangers. Don't ever contact me again. Got it? Goodbye?" The doctor told me about my grandson Maxime's health condition, but I didn't share it with my eldest son and his wife. Instead, I decided to cut ties with them. When they find out the truth, I'm sure they will regret their choices. As I gently hugged Maxime, I had a strong feeling that they would regret what they had done. I told Maxime about his cancer and the upcoming surgery. I reassured him not to worry about the cost and asked him to go through with the operation. "Maxime, I want you to live. I know the surgery might be scary, but you will recover. I'll be right here with you. Grandma, if you're with me, I'm not afraid of anything." "I'll go through the surgery and treatment, I promise," Maxime replied. Seeing Maxime trying to smile and not to worry me, even after hearing such harsh words from his own parents, I hugged him tightly. I also told him about the adoption process I had been preparing. Maxime seemed a bit worried at first, but eventually accepted it. That night, I discussed the adoption with my eldest son and his wife, who were drinking at home. They always said they didn't want a child because of the costs and didn't really care about Maxime. To make them leave my house, I offered them a significant amount of money to stay away from us forever. Without any hesitation, They signed the adoption papers and showed no signs of regret or attachment to Maxime. They looked happy about getting the money and quickly left the house. During the talk, they didn't even glance at or speak a word to Maxime, who was sick. Their lack of responsibility as parents saddened me, but I was relieved that one source of pain for Maxime was now gone. Soon after, Maxime had the surgery, which thankfully was successful. Being young, he recovered quickly and was soon ready to be discharged. "Doctor, thank you so much," I said. "Congratulations on your discharge," the doctor replied. "I'm glad. If you ever feel something's wrong, come see me right away." "Yes, understood," Maxime responded. During his stay at the hospital, Maxime grew close to the doctor and hugged him in gratitude. Once back home, Maxime lay down on his bed and said, "Grandma, thank you so much for letting me have the surgery." "Oh, don't mention it. I'm your parent now, and it's what parents should do. You must be tired today. Get some good rest." "Okay, I'll take a short nap," Maxine said, quickly falling into a deep sleep and snoring lightly. Not long after, I received a call from the hospital. "Oh no, did I leave something at the hospital?" I thought, answering the phone quickly. "Hello, sorry for the sudden call. Actually, someone from a TV station came to the hospital, and they really want to meet Maxime." "A person from a TV station? Why Maxime?" I was completely puzzled, and my mind was filled with questions. After listening carefully, I found out that during Maxime's stay at the hospital, he became friends with a writer who was there for an interview. The writer had shared some of Maxime's stories online, and they were well received by the public. This led to discussions about turning them into a movie. I was utterly surprised. I hadn't known about this since Maxime had talked to the writer outside of my visiting hours. They told me that if it becomes a movie, Maxime wouldn't act in it, and they wouldn't use his real name. But since it's his story, people who know him might recognize it's about him. "I see. Let me think about it. I'd like to discuss it with Maxime too," I said, wanting to think calmly. I decided to hang up the phone for now. Maxime woke up, rubbing his sleepy eyes. When I told him about the call from the hospital, his eyes sparkled with joy. "Really? My story is going to be a movie that everyone watches?" "It seems so. They said they'll hide your real name and make the movie," I explained. "Huh? Why? It's fine. Let them use my name," Maxime replied. "But if they use your real name, everyone will know about your illness and our family situation," I said, surprised by his reaction. Facing my surprise, Maxime answered with an innocent smile, "Because I want to tell everyone I have such a wonderful grandma like you." "Oh, Maxime, thank you," I said, tears welling up in my eyes because of his kindness. I never expected to hear such heartwarming words from him. That night's dinner tasted saltier than usual, but I felt deeply happy and fulfilled. The movie preparations went smoothly. While the film didn't use Maxime's real name, he was introduced as the inspiration for the story. The movie became a huge hit after its release, with theaters packed every day. I watched it myself, and even though I already knew the story, it was still a moving experience. I couldn't hold back my tears watching the touching scenes of a loving grandmother and her smart grandson trying to survive together. Later, Maxime was invited to many events to talk about his story on days when he didn't have school. He led a busy life, wanting to support other kids his age who were fighting cancer. Having gone through it himself, he wanted to cheer them on. I did my best to support him. Thanks to the many lectures he gave, Maxime's bank account grew enough for a lifetime. With this money, he could focus on his treatment without worrying about finances if his illness came back. Even if something happened to me, there would be more than enough money for him to attend university without any concerns. Thinking about the future, I carefully stored his bank passbook, knowing it would be essential. One day, after living this way for a while, my eldest son and his wife, whom we hadn't heard from in about 3 years, suddenly showed up at our house. It seemed they had lost a lot of money through gambling and were now in serious debt. As soon as they saw Maxime, They approached him with the same sleazy smiles they always used. "Oh, Maxime, you've grown so much. It's been a while since we last saw you. Don't you miss your mom and dad?" "Exactly. We took care of you when you were a baby. Don't you think you owe us?" Rachel added. Despite abandoning Maxime as soon as they found out about his illness, my eldest son and his wife were still as selfish as ever. Facing them, Maxime gave them a cold look and said, "Who are you?" At his unexpected words, both Simon and Rachel were taken aback, their mouths tightening. Trying not to laugh at their reactions, I stepped between them and Maxime to continue the conversation. "Excuse me, but who might you be? Do you have some business with my son, Maxime?" I asked. "What are you talking about? Maxime is my son. That makes him your grandson," Simon said angrily. But I looked at them with a cold stare. Under my gaze, Simon flinched for a moment, but then he turned to Maxime with a pleading tone. "Listen, Maxime, I messed up. I lost more money than I thought in horse racing. I'm in a really bad situation now. Can you help me out? If I had $30,000, it would be enough. Please." $30,000? That much? I exclaimed, shocked by the unexpected amount. No matter the reason, a debt of $30,000 from gambling was unthinkable. My late husband and I always warned Simon about gambling and going into debt, but it seemed like he didn't listen at all. The money Maxime saved came from the fees he received for giving lectures. He went through a lot to earn that money, sharing his painful memories in front of many people. I told Simon and Rachel, "You two can't use his hard-earned money just for your enjoyment." Then I firmly closed the front door in Simon's face. Outside, my eldest son and his wife started shouting and complaining, making such a loud noise that I had to call the police. Soon after, the noise stopped, and it seemed like they had given up and gone home. However, they didn't give up that easily. The next morning, they started causing a scene in front of our house again. "Mom, please listen. I've changed. I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm sorry for everything. Please let me in," Simon pleaded. "Maxime, I'm so sorry. From now on, I'll be with you and take care of you properly. So please let me in," Rachel added. They kept knocking on the front door early in the morning, annoying the whole neighborhood. Despite their constant noise, Maxime calmly continued his breakfast inside. Eventually, he went to the entrance, but I didn't hear the door unlock. Curious, I quietly checked what was happening. Instead of opening the door, Maxime was watching them from a small window near the entrance. They kept knocking, unaware of his gaze. Maxime then made a proposal. "All right, I'll give you a few questions. If you answer even one correctly, we can live together." "Really? Just like that? Despite everything, you're still a kid at heart, aren't you? What's the question?" "I'll answer anything," Simon replied, sounding relieved and cheerful. After a brief pause, Maxime asked the first question. "First question, tell me my favorite and least favorite foods." Hey Rachel, you should know this, right?" Simon stammered, clearly clueless. Rachel, trying to help, thought for a moment and answered confidently, "Any mother would know that. Your favorites are pudding and chiffon cake, and you hate bell peppers, don't you?" Hearing their answer, it was clear they didn't know Maxime at all. I sighed quietly without them noticing, feeling a mix of sadness and frustration. Maxime looked down at the couple from the window and asked, "Are you sure that's your final answer?" Of course, it's unthinkable for a mother not to know her own son's likes and dislikes, Rachel said confidently from outside. She seemed certain about her answer. Hearing this, Maxime laughed heartily. The couple, not expecting to be laughed at, were probably flustered. After a good laugh, Maxime, now calm, replied to Rachel, "That's wrong. What a shame." "What? Why? You always looked so happy when there were cakes, didn't you?" Rachel insisted. "That was Dad's favorite, not mine. I used to have an egg allergy, so I don't eat things like pudding or cakes with eggs. I love the egg-free cakes Grandma makes, and I hate whipped cream, but I absolutely love bell peppers." "Is that true?" Rachel asked, shocked. Before coming to my house, Maxine was only given cheap instant porridges and slices of bread. I often wondered how he managed to stay healthy with such a poor diet. The reason Maxime didn't get sick was largely because of the meals he got at daycare. The principal noticed his diet was lacking and provided allergy-friendly meals, carefully monitoring his health. When she warned Rachel about her poor parenting and threatened to report her to child services, Rachel decided to stop sending Maxine to daycare and moved in with me. Hey, how long do you think we've been apart? How would I know what you like now? Rachel said, frustrated. Then, next question. What is my birthday? Maxime asked. Your birthday? Rachel and Simon looked confused. Maxime's birthday was actually today. Normally, a parent wouldn't forget their child's birthday, especially a mother. But despite this simple question, the couple showed no sign of knowing the answer. Why aren't you answering? It's such an easy question, isn't it? Maxime asked. Of course I know that, right, Simon? Rachel said, turning to Simon. Yes, of course, I know that. Simon replied in a panicked voice, but it was clear they didn't know the answer. If you don't know, you should just admit it, Maxime said. Even after waiting for about 10 minutes, they still didn't answer. Maxime muttered under his breath, and his sad expression showed that he was hurt his own parents didn't remember his birthday. My heart ached for him. No, wait, I just had a brain fart. Of course, I know your birthday. Rachel tried to cover up her mistake. I know it, Rachel said. You just caught me off guard. It slipped my mind. Can you give me a hint? She asked, trying to cover up. In response to their silly excuses, Maxine laughed out loud, but I could see tears forming in his eyes. Feeling bad for Maxime, I quietly moved closer and held his hand. He was surprised to see me, but he nodded, wiped away his tears, and looked straight at his parents. Hey, real parents remember their child's birthday without needing hints. I've never been celebrated by you two, so I expected this, Maxime said. What? After all I did to give birth to you, and this is how you repay me. You should be grateful. Rachel snapped back, starting to get angry. Maxine gave her a cold look, and she went quiet. Well, here's the last question. It's an easy one, Maxine said. I was diagnosed with cancer and treated at a hospital. Which organ was affected? This was a question any parent should easily answer, especially since Maxine's illness had been on TV for several days. But their responses were unexpected. Wasn't it the heart? Simon asked. No, it was the stomach, right? Rachel added. I was so shocked I leaned back and looked up at the ceiling. Despite Maxime's story being a hot topic, my son and his wife showed they had no interest in him at all. Hearing this, Maxime must have thought, I never expected it to be this bad. I felt sorry for him, but to my surprise, he started laughing. Thanks, I get it now. It's worse than I thought, Maxime said. What? Did we miss something? Rachel asked, puzzled by Maxime's reaction. Maxime smiled, but his eyes were not smiling. It was kidney cancer. You claim to be my family, but you know nothing about me. The only one I consider my family is Grandma Camille. Shouldn't you be grateful I gave birth to you? Rachel asked, still angry. That's the point. To me, the only one I can call a parent is Grandma Camille, Maxine said. Oh, looks like my ride is here. Please don't bother coming here again. Maxine left them with those words and closed the window with a bang. Outside, my son and his wife were shouting in anger, but when the police arrived and warned them, they immediately stopped and everything went quiet. I was worried that Maxime might have been hurt by this, but he looked relieved and smiled at me. What I said to them just now, that they are not my parents, is truly how I feel. I've always wanted to call you Mom, but I was too shy to say it. Can I call you that? Of course, Maxime. Thank you, I replied, deeply touched by his words. I hugged Maxime tightly, tears in my eyes. Mom, you're squeezing too hard, he said, but he hugged me back just as tightly. As for those two, They claimed they had lost their son to me and were saying nonsense like I was being deceived by him. But everything they did to Maxime is documented and recorded, including testimonies from his kindergarten and the parenting diary I kept. The police reviewed the evidence and dismissed their claims. Still, the police contacted us to verify the facts. The officers seemed frustrated with the stubborn claims of my eldest son and his wife. After the call from the police, Maxime went to the police station alone to see them. When he came back, he looked refreshed. I said my final goodbyes to them and told the police everything about the terrible things they've done. They won't have a normal life for a while, I guess, Maxime said. He showed me the evidence he had mentioned. Shockingly, there was footage of the couple committing theft and exchanging money with a stranger. It seemed they believed they could live comfortably off the royalties if they could get Maxime on their side. They even planned to sell him to someone involved in shady dealings in the black market. Seeing their terrible plan, I was in shock and felt chills down my spine. I never thought my own son could be so cruel to his own child. Maxime spoke softly to me, seeing I was dumbfounded. I asked the manager to look into it, and we found out this shocking truth. I thought if you found out, you might be so shocked that you'd faint. That's why I kept it a secret. I'm sorry. It's okay, Maxime. I'd do anything for you and always have your back. It's even scarier to not know about such terrible things. I'm really sorry for hiding it from you all this time. The only one who worries about me this much is you, Mom. That's why I want to protect you too from now on, Maxime said with a slightly embarrassed look. Seeing Maxime's shy expression, tears of joy welled up in my eyes. Even though he has faced many hardships and seems mature for a 9-year-old, that shy expression made him look just like a child, which warmed my heart. My heart warmed as I thought about my eldest son and his wife. They were later found guilty of many other crimes and ended up serving nearly 9 years in prison. They never showed any remorse or apologized. The letters they sent, collected by Maxime's manager, still demand repayment for bringing him into the world. Maxime continues to visit hospitals to encourage sick children. He's now in middle school and has hit puberty, but his kind and honest nature remains the same. He's living a good life. Lately, it seems he has a girlfriend. I see him sneaking out for dates and can't help but think how cute he is. The cancer we worried about shows no signs of coming back, and his recovery is going well. Although it's impossible to say it will never return, regular checkups are essential. For now, he's living just like any other kid his age and seems happy every day. I still fuss over Maxime and nag him a lot. Naturally, there are times when he gets annoyed, but taking care of him gives my life meaning. I hope Maxime can bear with me a little longer. My biggest goal now is to live long enough to see Maxime's wedding as a parent. If I'm being greedy, I'd love to see the face of Maxime's child, my great-grandchild. To make sure I stay healthy until then, I've started going to the gym. Because of this, people around me are often surprised and call me a lively and young grandmother. For Maxime's sake, I'll strive to be a mother he can proudly show off for as long as possible.